Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Bloodletting continues in Spanish Town despite curfew. Spanish Town mayor points finger at the police for mayhem in Old Capital. And later in sports, West Indies on top against Bangladesh on day one of first test in Antigua. I'm Giovanni Dennis and here are the details. We begin with the latest on the mayhem in the Old Capital. The police believe the recent shooting of a relative of a gang member has led to the heightened hostility in Spanish Town, St. Catherine, the latest murder victim being a 44-year-old woman. O'Shane Masters now reports.
Communities within the Spanish Town area are still tense this afternoon following the recent increase in murders. Over the last 3 weeks, there have been heightened tension in the St. John's Road and Homestead areas. But on Tuesday, that gang war spilled over into the parish capital. 6 persons were shot, 2 fatally by gunmen and 1 individual by the police. The Member of Parliament for St. Catherine Central, Olivia Grange, has since condemned the incident.
But what we're experiencing is people driving into the constituency and shooting at innocent individuals and other persons, and this is now creating greater tension.
Since Tuesday, a curfew has been imposed in a number of communities. But even with the curfew in place, a woman was killed last night in the community of Homestead. She has been identified as 44-year-old Nikisha Pottinger. It's understood that the woman was told by the police to stay away from Homestead following a recent fatal shooting. Her fiancé, however, says that's not true. The man, who did not want to appear on camera, told us that Nikisha received several gunshots as she tried to run away from the gunmen last night. He told our news team that he was the one who rushed her to hospital. Overcome with tears, he recounted her last words.
She said that tell the kids them she love them. Because I thought she was going to make it, But it seemed like she didn't. She knew she was going to make it. She said, tell the kids them I love them. And I must remember the promise I made her 15 years ago. So I must behave, keep myself out of certain things.
All right.
But it's hard to keep that promise. No.
In the meantime, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang is not ruling out an extension of the curfew in the Market District in Spanish Town. The 48-hour curfew expires at 6 o'clock this evening.
I have the authority to extend it for a further 48 hours. If the leadership of the force requires it, it will be given. That's the call of the security forces. So the idea of a curfew is to literally put some calm in the situation, restore some stability, and then give the security force some space to investigate and find some of the miscreants out there.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ.
And Mayor of Spanish Town Norman Scott is this afternoon defending himself in the wake of criticisms following the shooting spree in Spanish Town. Mr. Scott is being accused of knowing about an attempt to cause mayhem in the town and did very little about it. Jamila Maitland has that angle.
Mayor of Spanish Town in St. Catherine, Norman Scott, continues to defend his position for not demanding swift actions from the police about news that there would be mayhem in the Old Capital days before it unfolded. He said information about the intended chaos in the town was brought to his attention from Monday. Mr. Scott said that attempts to contact the police who had information about the mayhem were unsuccessful. Now, he's insisting that the police should have done more.
The fact that this was not private information, I expected the police to take proactive actions.
Is the reason Mayor Scott believed the knowledge of the mayhem was nothing new to the business community.
Businesses were closed early. So and as the mayor of the town, I would hear that the businesses were closed. Why did they close? Oh, they hear that men are coming to do things. And so they close early. Oh, the roads are blocked because they don't want anybody to pass through, whatever. If I hear those things, then why the police would not have heard those things? As a matter of fact, I said, the police was the one who called my disaster coordinator to advise her that this was happening.
In the meantime, He also reasoned that the police have taken a selective approach to dealing with crime in the capital.
Whenever there is violence in another section of the town, then the police would be on it. They would be calling out the names of the gangs that are involved. And so you would find more police personnel coming into the town, and things would have been brought under control much quicker. I still ask the question, why wasn't it done on the other side of the town?
A series of shootings along Job Lane, Cumberland Road, and William Add French streets sent shoppers scampering for cover on Tuesday. Jamila Maitland, TVJ News.
Over in St. Thomas, the police are trying to find out the motive behind the shooting death of a man in York District yesterday. The deceased has been identified as a 35-year-old Rupert Miller. It's reported that about 2 p.m., Mr. Miller and 2 other men were working on a construction site when loud explosions were heard. Shortly after, it was discovered that Miller had been shot. He was taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead. Now, this latest incident brings to 17 the total number of murders in the Whitehall Seaforth area since the start of the year. To other news, the return of North Central St. Catherine Member of Parliament Natalie Nita Garvey to the Shadow Cabinet is among the changes to the lineup of spokespersons announced late Wednesday by Opposition Leader Mark Golding. Mrs. Nita Garvey is now the spokesperson on local government, community development and sports, as well as the Deputy Leader of Opposition Business in the House. Denise Daly has been moved to gender, culture and social transformation. Senator Damian Crawford is taking over as the new spokesperson on education. He will also cover training and competitiveness, taking over from Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, who has been sent to Labour and Social Security. Senator Gabriella Morris will now be responsible for youth and entertainment, as well as chair the Junior Shadow Cabinet. Other changes include Philip Paulwell returning as Leader of Opposition Business in the House of Representatives, replacing Anthony Hilton. Senator Donna Scott Motley retains her justice portfolio, to which she will now join information. Her deputy is former MP Raymond Price. Economist Dr. Andre Houghton and Patricia Duncan Sutherland are the other deputy spokespersons. And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when we return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. As Jamaica intensifies preparations for the hurricane season, Prime Minister Andrew Holness is cautioning stakeholders about the fair distribution of resources for drain cleaning and other activities. The local government ministry, including municipal corporations, members of parliament and the National Works Agency, are some of the entities responsible for cleanup activities.
All the agents who are making decisions about the selection of drains, the selection of personnel who are going to clear these drains, and the accountability for the use of the funds, that they first of all put aside the political imperative in the selection of the works involved in doing drain cleaning and pay attention to the imperative of ensuring that there is no flooding that could dislocate populations.
The Prime Minister was speaking at Wednesday's meeting of the National Disaster Risk Management Council. He underscored the need to review shelter operations and for citizens to listen to evacuation orders given by the authorities in the event of flooding.
But we ask our citizens to think carefully about the possibility that they could be marooned. There could be a disaster that impacts them and their family and their property, and it would require them to move at short notice or to relocate, and they should be mentally prepared for this.
The family and friends of a missing man are seeking your help in locating him this afternoon. The man has been identified as 60-year-old George Gordon from Dunkirk, Kingston. He was last seen in the area on June 10. It's also reported that Mr. Gordon was just released from a hospital and should be recuperating from his medical condition. Anyone sees or hears from him is being asked to contact Pastor Calvin White, 119, or the nearest police station. And for a look at the economy, here's Cody and Barrett with the Business Minute.
More than $1 billion has been raised on the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange since the start of the year. Managing Director of the Stock Exchange, Marlene Street Forest, says this is a sign of increased public interest in equities.
A total of $1.45 billion has been raised year to date from 4 IPOs. The total market capitalization of the company is $2.5 billion, that's dollar, and the market capitalization on the junior market is now $194.7 billion.
The Swiss National Bank SNB raised its policy interest rate for the first time in 15 years, joining other central banks in tightening monetary policy to fight resurgent inflation. The central bank increased its policy rate to minus 0.25% from the minus 0.75% level it has developed since 2015.
Time now for the top regional and international stories with Sandy Williams.
In regional news, the Board of Governors of the Barbados-based Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, began its 52nd annual meeting on Wednesday with an indication that the region's premier financial institution intends to advance food and nutrition security, energy and water security as its big initiatives for 2022 and beyond. CDB President Dr. Jean Leon said the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated existing inequalities across the board, including in employment, housing, healthcare, and food security. Dr. Leon said efforts to reduce the food import bill must be underpinned by investments in climate-smart and resilient agricultural technologies, research and development, and knowledge system that connects farmers, industry, and research to sustain the long-term development in the sector. On the international scene, Brazilian police say a male suspect has confessed to burying the bodies of missing British journalist Dom Phillips and indigenous expert Bruno Pereira. Detectives say the man took investigators to a site where human remains were dug up. They add that the police would work with Interpol to confirm the bodies' identities. Mr. Phillips, 57, and Mr. Pereira, 41, disappeared in a remote part of the Amazon rainforest that is rife with illegal poaching, mining, and logging on June 5. Two suspects, brothers Amaralda and Osenada Costa de Oliveira, have been arrested in connection with the case. It brings an end to a 10-day search that involved the Army, Navy, and police. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
And we now head to a quick break. When we come back, Renata Brown will have your Midday Sports.
Welcome back. It's now time for your Midday Sports. Now, the West Indies took full control of the morning session on day one of their opening test against Bangladesh in Antigua, picking up 6 wickets to see the visitors get to lunch at 76 for 6. Asked to bat first, Bangladesh were in early trouble as they found themselves at 16 for 3. Tamim Iqbal, 29, and Litan Das, 12, were the only batsmen who had gotten to double figures. Since the interval, Bangladesh have lost another 2 wickets to be 103. That's another 3 wickets to be 103 for 9 after 32.2 overs. Shakib Al Hassan has so far top scored with 51. And the Windward Islands will need 228 runs to beat Barbados in the opening game of the Cricket West Indies Women's Super 50 Cup at the Guyana National Stadium in Providence. Barbados made 227 for 2 from their 50 overs, with Hayley Matthews 99 and Kisia Knight 72 the top scorers. The revamped competition bowled off this morning with all games set to be played in Providence due to current weather conditions in Guyana. The conditions forced the T20 competition to be brought forward and pushed back the 50-over tournament, and has also seen the competition switched to 2 groups of 3 teams from the original round-robin format. Jamaica will open their campaign in Group A on Saturday when they play Barbados. The top 2 teams from each group will qualify for the semifinals before the final on Sunday, June 25. There will also be a playoff for the 5th and 6th place teams. And Olympic champion Omar McLeod could be involved in the fastest race in the history of the 110-meter hurdles, as American Devon Allen will be looking to challenge the world record when they meet at the Oslo Diamond League meet in Norway this afternoon. Now, Allen sped to 12.84 seconds to win the event at the Continental Gold Tour meet in New York on Sunday, a time that ranks him 3rd on the all-time list. Speaking ahead of the race, Allen says he would love to go below the record of 12.80 held by Aries Merritt.
I hope so, yeah. I was just telling Robbie, my manager, I hope not to run over 13 anymore. So that's the goal. That's the goal for sure. And, I was joking with my coach earlier this week. I was like, if I break the world record on this European trip, I'll make sure not to do it by too much so I can do it again in Eugene. So he can see it. So he can see it live.
This will be the 4th 110-meter hurdles race for McLeod this season. The Jamaican has a season's best of 13.17 seconds. 3 other Jamaicans are down to compete at the meet. Olympic finalist Christopher Taylor will line up in the men's 400 meters, while another Jamaican Olympic finalist, Natoya Gould, will compete in the 800 meters. World Championship silver medalist Daniel Thomas Dodd will contest the women's shot put event. And members of the Reggae Boys under-20 squad to the CONCACAF Youth Tournament safely arrived in Honduras this morning ahead of the start of the tournament on Saturday. The Jamaicans arrived almost 2 days later than originally scheduled after an initial flight booked for 14 members of the group was cancelled on Tuesday night. The full delegation eventually left the island this morning on a chartered flight, reportedly arranged by the Jamaica Football Federation and a handful of parents. The Jamaicans, who are drawn in Group D, are expected to have their first official training session today after 2 other planned sessions were cancelled due to the mishap with their initial flight plans. The team will play its first game on Saturday against Costa Rica. Honduras and Antigua and Barbuda are the other teams in the group. And that's it for your Midday Sports Report. Giovanni, it's back to you.
Extreme confidence there from Devon Allen Renard. I've never seen that before. Someone saying they'll break the world record twice over like a 1 month period, essentially.
Look, he's in good shape. At 12.84, the record at 12.80. It looks gettable, but that New York track on Sunday was very fast. So let's see what happens today.
Well, I believe if he will get it, so can Hansel Parchment. My bet is on the Jamaican as always. And that's it for the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.